Yes, good morning, children. Welcome to the session. Today I'm going to discuss the second poem of class 12th English book Flamingo. Right? So, children, the title of the poem is An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum. So, this is a very famous piece of writing written by Sir Stephen Harold Spender. Stephen Spender, he is popularly known as, his full name is Sir Stephen Harold Spender, right? Spender is a modern poet as he lived in 20th century London. Spender attended Oxford University and he also fought in Spanish Civil War. In the initial years of the 20th century, or you may say second and third decade in 1920s and 30s, so he associated with other poets and socialists of the time, such as the famous ones were Auden, Christopher Isherwood, Louis Macknies, Cecil Day Lewis, etc. So like his early poetry was often inspired by social protest, like due to his association with these people, right? The present poem, An Elementary School Classroom in a Slum, is a kind of big satire on the present education system that is run by the government bodies. That is, he has simply, I would say, he has described the condition of government schools, the condition of those schools, either government or you may say there may be some small private schools as well, like where the children do not get much exposure, like they do not get whatever they are, whatever for whatever purpose they are there in that school, right? So in this poem, Spender has encapsulated his philosophy of life, right? So he has contained his philosophy of life, and which is based on the two themes. Based on two themes. First is theme of social justice, and second is class inequalities. Social justice and class inequalities. So the poet constantly highlights his belief in the paradox of poverty. Paradox of poverty, the idea that more advanced the society, the larger would be the gap between the rich and the poor, right? So in this poem, I would like to give you an insight before beginning with the text, right? So the poet says that the children of these schools are a little bit exposed to the outer world, the realities of the outer world, or you may say the actual scenario of the outer world. So they also want to go out of the four walls of that classroom and actually enjoy the nature that is being portrayed. Like, I'm giving you a little bit hints. So many kinds of pictures are there hanging in the classrooms, but those are actually not used. Those are actually not used for the ideal purpose. Some of the things are available to these children as well. The poet would straight away say that a few things are available to these people, these children, but those are not at all worth. Those things are not at all worth. Why? Because those children cannot use those facilities. Like, those facilities are just given in for the sake of name only, right? So beginning with the text, see what he writes before you read. Have you ever visited or seen an elementary school in a slum? What does it look like? So first question of the editor of this book is, like, have you ever seen an elementary school? Means, have you ever visited a slum? Or have you ever gone to a school which is meant for the children of slum, right? So slums are those places where people haven't got sufficient place to live. They are not even provided with the basic amenities, basic facilities of life. Like, they are deprived, they don't have enough food to eat, they don't have opportunities to avail. So they don't have much in their life. They only survive by how, like, they only survive by making their two ends meet, just either by begging from other people, or by like jotting down the resources, by working hard throughout the day. And like they are unaware, uneducated, or you may say they have very low general awareness. So like their life is full of ignorance. Their life is full of ignorance. So the poet would talk about such kind of people. So moving to the text, he says, see, far, far from gusty waves these children's faces. Far, far from gusty waves these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor. The hair torn round their pallor. The tall girl with her weighed down head, the pepper seeming boy with rat's eyes. So the very first line of the poem, so it uses an image to contrast the faces of slum children with those of others, as he says that far, far from gusty waves these children's faces like rootless weeds. Children, what are weeds? Weeds are a kind of unwanted plants, right? So the poet calls their faces look like rootless weeds, means which have no origin, which have no belongingness, and those are unwanted. And their hair torn round their pallor. Pallor here signifies means their pale faces. It means he wants to say that the hair of such children are torn round their pale faces, their faces which are weak and timid, right? So in the first line, he says that they are far from gusty waves. It means they are far from any kind of brightness, any kind of animation. Those are very passive. And next he says that, like, what is missing here? Their base. It means they don't have any roots, they don't have anyone to support them. Next line is the tall girl with her weighed down head, right? So he calls the slum children as they are like rootless weeds, that is unwanted by society and not belonging to any society. So next he says that with weighed down head, means it signifies their uncombed hair falls on their pale faces, right? So the first child, he says, is a tall girl with her weighed down head, means this girl is physically as well as emotionally exhausted, as if all life she has been weighed down under the burden, right? So next he talks of the paper seeming boy with rat's eyes. A very different description. Paper seeming boy here means he is so thin. He is as thin as a paper, right? So he says that his eyes are like rat. His eyes are like that of a rat, means very quick. His eyes might be searching for food, right? So rats eyes are so quick and are always in search of something to eat, always in search of some food stuff, right? So he calls the boy's eyes as he compares his eyes to rat's eyes, right? So he also calls him paper seeming. It means he is so thin, he is so lean and weak that he may be very hungry. That's why his eyes are so quick like that of a rat. So next he talks of the stunted unlucky hire. The stunted unlucky hire of twisted bones reciting a father's gnarled disease has lesson from his desk at the back of the dim class. Dim class here denotes the class where there is no appropriate light, right? The class where there is no appropriate light or bulbs or CFL. One unnoted, sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of squirrel's game in a tree room other than this. Now what he wants to convey here, Spender says that another student who is stunted and he is unlucky hire of twisted bones. It means the boy's father must also have twisted kind of bones that are not straight, right? So that's why he says that his father's gnarled disease. He writes that the boy has inherited this kind of twisted bones from his father because his father had this disease. So this boy is also the victim of a genetic disorder, right? Genetic disorder, and that's why he has been disfigured and trapped in a physically challenged body. So next he says that see in the next line, at the back of dim class one unnoted, right? So he also talks of those children like exactly like that boy. He talks of those children that they are sitting at the back of a class where no light reaches their eyes, where no light reaches their desks even. They are unnoted. It means they are unnoticed by their teachers. They are sweet and young and their eyes live in a dream. It means since they are inexperienced, they don't know that it's not in their capability to achieve the heights of this world. So they live in a world of dreams. They live in an unreal world, right? So next he says that of squirrel's game in tree room other than this, right? So about that boy, he says he is unnoticed by his teacher, right? So it may mean that he may understand his position in society and see that harsh realities of this world. Like with this understanding, the boy may represent a hope for social change, since he is faced with the harsh realities of life and he actually doesn't see any hope for future, but due to this turmoil, due to this burden on his shoulders, he may represent some hope for social change, right? So like instead of merely being an individual who has lost his mind, the poet here talks of the children who haven't got the desired opportunities. Still he feels that they may have some hope, they may generate some hope. So this he will clear by the end of the poem, that why they should have some hope and how that hope can be fulfilled. Next, the poet talks of on source cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn. A very, very different kind of phrase. Once again, Suspender is known for using such phrases. Shakespeare's head. I hope you all know who was Shakespeare. Shakespeare was the most famous British dramatist till date, right? So he is considered the best dramatist of English till date, right? So Shakespeare's head hangs there in the class. That means the poet wants to say that a picture, a portrait of Shakespeare hangs there on the wall of one of the classrooms, and the walls are sour cream walls. Sour cream means sour here signifies faded. They have negligent appearance as they haven't been painted for a long time, right? So in other words, you may say that these children inhabit a world which is depressing, which is dreary, right? So the on the walls of their classroom, the picture of Shakespeare here signifies the picture of any great personality, right? So that may be Arundhati Roy, that may be John Keats, that may be any other famous writer like William Shakespeare. So he says that these pictures hang on the walls of such classrooms, right? So these pictures, how these come to the school? Actually, these are the donations given by people, right? So donations given by people so that they should be remembered. See, next example he takes of cloudless at dawn, civilized dom riding all cities. It means, as you know, that whatever Shakespeare wrote, right? So Shakespeare wrote about the ancient themes. Shakespeare wrote about the Roman emperors So here it's written that civilized home riding all cities. It means he says that the walls are displayed, on the walls are displayed those pictures of different writers, different poets, right? So which show the bust of Shakespeare with the background of a clear sky at the time of sunrise, cloudless at dawn. It means morning time, right? So civilized home riding all cities. It is shown that education is spread everywhere, everybody is civilized. Next line he says, belt flowery, troilus valley, open handed map awarding the world its world. So this is one of the very famous stanzas, and it often appears in the examination. So the question from this stanza often appears in final examination. So what does that mean, awarding the world its world? So he wants to say that the walls also have those pictures of Troilus Valley. Troilus Valley with its beautiful flowers presenting a world of heavenly splendor, presenting a world of heavenly wonder, right? So apart from all this, the walls also have the maps that reveal the world, right? Awarding the world its world, open handed map. The map of world is also hanged in that slum school, right? So map of the world is there, the lines open handed map awarding the world its world refer to map of the world that is hanging on the wall of that classroom. It shows everyone the world out there. It means it shows to those little children that a big world is there to explore. That map gives them insight into the dreams they can have, the dreams which they can have, right? So but the world of slum children is the limited world. They haven't some of them haven't ever gone out of their place. They have not been aware that they are the citizens of like this country, this world has so many countries. They don't have any knowledge at all, so their world is so small, so limited, and that can also be seen through the windows of the classroom, and not what that world map promises. That world map shows that so many countries are there in this world, so many countries exist, this is the name of this country, this is the name of that country. So it shows like a big world, but those children can only see that picture and they cannot relate to that world. Why they cannot relate? Because they haven't ever gone out of their slum area. They always live there, they beg food, they borrow food from somewhere, or they earn it somehow. So like this is all about their life, so they don't know anything beyond that, right? Next, he says that, and yet for these children, these windows, not this map, their world, where all their future is painted with the fog. Children, future painted with the fog means there is a fog in their future. Fog signifies something that is not clear, something that is not vivid, right? So he calls the future of such children as that future is not in light. They don't know what to do in their future because they are not getting enough for the present day. So how can they think of generating a beautiful future? So he says that their future is painted with the fog. It means that is not clear. Their future is dark and uncertain. Nobody knows what they would do in their future. Next he says, a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky. So children, narrow street here means a hopeless situation. A situation where there is no hope, where there is no ray of light. So that is sealed in a lead sky. Lead sky means dull colored sky. That is dimly lit sky, right? It suggests a dimly lit sky or lead sky, children, often suggest that there is a lot of pollution and burden of the industrial world. I hope you understand lead sky. when the sky is full of pollution and burden of industrial world. So the poet here says that a narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, that their life is sealed in a hopeless situation. It means they cannot even see the clear sky. Why? Because their sky is full of pollution. It means they are not shown any way by anybody. They are not guided by their teachers properly. They are not being led to the right way by their torch bearers. It means their future is dark because nobody is there to carry a torch and show them the way. Right? Next, he says that far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of words. Right? So that suggests that the children are trapped in such a situation, as he called it, a hopeless situation, where their reality is far, far removed from that literary world. You know, the pictures of Shakespeare, the map of the world are just placed there for the sake of name only, for the sake of showing that yes, we have a map in the school, yes, we have the portrait of Shakespeare in the school. But those children's reality is very far away from that literary world, from that world of education, from that world of awareness, right? So that literary world glitters with the beauty of nature, rivers, right, caves, stars of words, like everything that is attractive and beautiful, or you may say everything that is wonderstruck. So those children have never been exposed to such things, so they cannot imagine even, right? So next he says that surely Shakespeare is wicked. He says, surely Shakespeare is wicked. Wicked means bad. He calls Shakespeare bad. The map, a bad example. Poet also says that the hanging of map should not be there. The portrait of Shakespeare should not be there in the classroom. Why? See, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal for lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes from fog to endless night, right? So what he says, he suddenly turns aggressive. The poet suddenly becomes angry and feels that Shakespeare is bad. The map should not be there in the classroom. Why? He gives reason, because his words, Shakespeare's words, misled the children. They don't show the children the right way. The map is also a bad example. Why? Because the map shows them a beautiful world of ships, sun, love, which is actually not only unreal for these children, but it also has a corrupt influence on their minds, and it instigates such children to steal and try to escape to a beautiful life, right? So on their path, on this path, he says, like their foggy world would turn into endless night. It means, see, one of the examples is that suppose a very poor boy is there, a very poor creature is there, and that he or she, as that creature is shown some very beautiful, some wonderful world, a glimpse of a wonderful world. Obviously that glimpse would tempt that boy to steal and live a good life, to steal and live a life of that particular scenario, That's why Spender calls Shakespeare wicked. He says that the writings of Shakespeare, the dramas written by Shakespeare, often mislead the children, because those dramas are about the royal life. Those dramas are about the life of kings and queens. So that's why these children have never been exposed to such royal life. They have never even they have never even been given any glimpse of such a life. So reading Shakespeare or looking at the works of Shakespeare would not be good enough for these children, because it may corrupt their character, right? So next he says that on their slag heap, these children wear skins peeped through by bones and spectacles of steel with mended glass. Mended means repaired, like bottle bits on stones. See, he says that slag heap. On their slag heap literally refers to a heap of ash and industrial waste, right? Rock, industrial waste. So, but this metaphor has been used to indicate the weak bodies of the slum children, right? He says on their slag heap, it means with their weak and thin bodies, these children wear skin peeped through by bones. We have often seen the pictures of children like whose bones are quite visible, like if they're wearing shorts or very less clothes, their bones are quite visible. That's what he is talking of. They wear a very thin skin, peeped through by bones. Peeped means those their bones can be looked at by. Peeped through, their bones can be looked at. Why? Because their skin, their body has no mass, zero mass at all, right? Next he says that like they people wear spectacles, right? So they wear spectacles that have glass which has probably been broken and mended. It means they don't have enough money to buy new spectacles if one of their spectacles has been broken. They wear the same spectacle, and he also adds that see, with mended glass like bottles bits on stones, right? So he says that the spectacles they are wearing has broken glass and those are amended by somebody, right? So their frame is of steel. He says spectacles of steel. Their frame is not of fiber or of a good substance, that is made of steel. He says that the entire appearance of these slum children speaks of their deprivation, speaks of their poverty and helplessness. The poet shows his aggressive attitude by suggesting that the maps on their walls show like huge slums instead of a beautiful scenic graphics, right? He says blot their maps with slums. It means don't show them the world map. The poet suggests that don't show slum children the world map. Why? He says that because they can never reach those countries. They can never go out of their country. They can never go out of their city even. So, he aggressively says that these children should be shown the maps of slum areas. Slums as big as doom. It means slums that suggest their dark future. That suggests their future that is not at all clear, right? So they are so weak and so much disease prone that they can hardly serve any purpose in life. They cannot rise above that society in which they live in, right? So next he says that unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs. Children, catacombs, these are grave-like slums. A metaphor is used, grave-like slums, right? The poet appeals to the higher authorities here. He appeals to the governor of the state. He appeals to the inspectors whose job is to inspect the areas and see if some improvements are needed. He refers to the visitors who go to check these schools, their classrooms, their level, their standard of teaching. He appeals to such officers and says that this map becomes their window. It means, he says, unless such officers actually visit these slum schools, right? Nothing can be done unless they visit. If the poet here says that if they visit these schools, if they visit the classrooms and see the actual scenario, they may do something to improve the condition of these children, right? So again he adds that if there is political will, many things are there at the disposal of government. Many things are visible, many things can be seen very clearly, very vividly, right? But a few things are done. So here he says that if there is some political will, the map showing the beautiful world outside can become the reality of these slum children as well. It means the reality of these slum children, if seen by some higher officials, and if the political will is there, those children can also be given ample opportunities to go out of their places, to go out of their countries, and to live that better life, right? So he says that he hopes that the authorities would realize their moral duties and responsibilities, and if the political will is there, they should free these children from their catacombs. They should free these children from their grave like slums. Right? So, catacombs means a long underground gallery with excavations in its sides for the purpose of making tombs, right? So the name catacombs, like before the 17th century, was applied to the cemeteries, graves, right? Graves in Rome. So like he has used such poetic devices to compare the life of these slum children. So in the concluding stanza, he says, break, oh break, open till they break the town, and show the children to green fields and make their world run azure on gold sands, and let their tongues run naked into the books, and white and green leaves open history theirs whose language is the sun. Right? He says, break, oh break, open. So try to understand, children, like what should they say about this line, how he wants to explain it. So he says they should break all the barriers and obstacles. Break, oh break, the poet wants to break all the barriers, all the problems, all the obstacles that bind these slum children and confine them to a ugly and dirty classroom that they actually don't deserve at all. Right? Next he says that till they break the town. Till they break the town means till the time they come out of the dirty surroundings and slums of the town and show the children to green fields, towns, right? So dirty surroundings and slums of the town, and they should come out to the green field and breathe in the open fresh air, right? So he says that those barriers should be pulled down. These children must be given freedom to experience the bounties of nature. They should be free to view the green fields and run on gold sand, right? Azure, yellow colored, right? Golden colored. So the poet begs to let them read books of literature. Let them read books of philosophy, right? And form their own opinions. These children could never have their opinion. Many of them could never speak whatever was in their mind. So the poet urges them to let these children read a lot of books and form their opinion. Right? He urges them to let them breathe in fresh air, to let them discover themselves, and let them be so creative that their names can also be added in the books of history. He says, run naked, let their tongues run naked. Running tongue naked means their tongue should be given freedom. They should be given freedom to speak for themselves, right? So he says that their tongue should be given freedom. Let them breathe in fresh air, right? Let them discover themselves. Let them know their worth, and let them be so creative that their names can be added in the books of history. It means the poet feels that these children, some of these have also got extraordinary talent, that they can do wonders. So the only thing they needed is exposure, right? So he says that if these children get ample opportunities like the other children or the children of rich people get, so their world can also be changed entirely. If they get good education, they can spread the light and awareness to all, and this can eradicate poverty and darkness from their lives. As he says, obviously if their names would be added in history, they would be given due importance, their talent would be recognized, right? So poverty would automatically be eliminated from their lives. So I hope that was all about the poem. I hope that is clear to all of you, and I hope you have enjoyed it. So children, go by the back exercise questions, that are some of them are MCQs, and do ask me your queries in the comment section. I'll be happy to take that. Have a nice day. Thank you.